Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking in. I love you all. Before we get into today's video, I want to say a massive thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Basically, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of different classes and members across 150 different countries. Basically, the best way I would describe it is Skillshare is a place to get inspired to learn new skills at the comfort of your own home and according to your time schedule, because we all have really busy lives and we all have so many different things going on and we all have different schedules. So this is amazing because it's completely tailored to you. And there are so many different things you can learn on Skillshare. It's incredible. Okay, so I've talked about this before. I'm really taking this YouTube thing very seriously. I wanted to get really good at video editing because it was really new to me, especially starting out my YouTube channel. So I took to Skillshare and I found video editing with Final Cut Pro. This is a class that will basically show you how to go from beginner to YouTuber. It's this class with 48,000 students, which is amazing. And it's hosted by this guy called Ali Abdul. I hope I'm saying that right. He was absolutely incredible. I loved that one. It was actually really easy to follow because there's different segments. And like I said, you can do them at any time, but I finished it really quickly. And now I find editing so easy. It's all thanks to Skillshare. And it was really good for my schedule too, to fit in Skillshare throughout my day when I was at the airport, or I had an hour here or an hour there, or just before bed. So yeah, and I really recommend that to anybody out there that's trying to get into YouTube and video editing. There are a range of different things you can learn about: photography, cooking, writing, literally everything. You can learn about painting, you can learn about so many different skills on Skillshare. So it is absolutely incredible. I love what they stand for. I love what they're doing. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. You can check out their website and everything linked in my description below. And yeah, I love you guys, and let's get into the video. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you that watch me regularly, you might notice I have different hair today. My hair is straight. I'm so excited to get into today's video. I've written a lot of different notes about this topic, and we're going to be discussing how I'm surviving a long distance relationship and my best advice. Essentially, this is like the one video that you need if you are about to get into a long distance relationship, or you've ever considered one, or you have a friend that's in one. It's just gonna be overall really informative and literally the best video you could ever watch when it comes to long distance. I have all the tips. I myself am in a long distance relationship at the moment. I always write down notes before I get into these videos because I just want to brainstorm and I don't want to just like waffle on and talk about random shit. Like, I really think these videos through. So anyway, whenever I look left, it's because I'm just reading some notes that I've written down. I did not understand why people would put themselves in situations where they would commit to somebody that doesn't live in the same city as them. It's so important to have those phases in your relationship where you're hanging out physically and you're together, and like that's what a relationship is. You're going out, you're going on dates, you're growing together. So I didn't understand why anybody would want to be in a situation where they were dating somebody that doesn't live in the same city. I was never out to find myself in a long distance relationship, but it makes sense, right? Because picture a video of like zooming out into the universe, right? The thought of finding your soulmate in that one city that you live in is like, I don't know, really? I'm not shitting on people that find relationships in the same city. It's not that crazy to think that somebody perfect for you could be living somewhere else. I think it's bad that the first thought is like, oh, but it's long distance, so it can't work. There's 8 billion people in this world. Like, think about it. That one city that you live in, you think that they're just there? There are some amazing people out there. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of backstory about my relationship first, and then I'm going to get into like all my tips and, like pros and cons of being in a long distance relationship. Basically, my boyfriend and I met when we were in like year 4 in Dubai. Crazy. Both of our families lived in Dubai at the time, and we were in school together. We were just kids, and I moved away and I moved to Australia like later in life, and he moved here as well, but we moved to different cities in Australia. So he lives in Melbourne and I live in Sydney, and I know that there are people out there doing long distance 14-hour flights away from each other. I know that it seems like a 9-hour drive or a 1 and a bit hour flight is not that crazy compared to what you might be going through, but essentially it's still difficult. You're still spending money on flights. You have to carve out the time to see them. I'm not saying it's as difficult, I'm saying it's still difficult, and I can understand, and that's why I'm putting together this video. But I do acknowledge that there are people out there in different situations when it comes to long distance. Like, I have a friend that's doing long distance and her partner literally lives in a whole different country, like hours away. I'm talking like 10 plus hours, and we've had so many discussions about it, and it seems like our experiences are really, really similar. Despite the amount of distance, it's still difficult, you know, when your partner doesn't live in the same city as you, whether it's a 4-hour drive, a 10-hour drive, or a 10-hour flight, it's still difficult. Giving you a little rough story. So he came to visit Sydney, and it just happened, girl. I looked at him, I was like, you are fine. We're about to be together. So yeah, we sort of stayed friends, you know, we communicated like online, and he came to visit as a friend. I literally like wasn't expecting anything, and here we are. We didn't start dating until months after we first initially met, because I think we were both kind of skeptical about the whole long distance relationship idea. Like, it's just not ideal. You know, he sent me a text one day and he said something really sweet about, he was like, I really like you and I want to see where this can go. I don't know, like it just, I couldn't stop thinking about him, and there was nobody else in my city that I wanted, and it's just like, it just happened. That's how it happens, I think, with long distance relationships. I think, I don't know, I don't think it's weird or anything if you're looking for one, but I definitely feel like, why would you be looking for one? It's like easier to start out with somebody that you're living in the same city with, but when you do catch feelings for somebody that lives somewhere else, it's like you can't help it, and it's inevitable. It just happens. If you choose to focus on what doesn't work and all the negatives, you are just going to continue manifesting that. So I think that in my mind, I just didn't even want to think about the struggles of long distance. I just thought to myself, okay, there's a lot of couples that do long distance, and I guess it works for them, so surely I can be in that percentage of people. How do they do it though? And so I took to YouTube and I watched a bunch of videos. In the beginning, when I first started talking to him, I'll admit it, I was like crazy. I was watching so many videos. I was so interested because I didn't want to get into something for it to just fail. And in the beginning, I was vulnerable. I needed reassurance. That's why I watched all those videos. I was in a weird place where I had a lot of worry and I had a lot of doubt. And it was really difficult because when I'd be spending time with him, it was amazing, and then we would part ways and spend weeks without each other, and it was just so difficult for me to adapt to that. Like, I had never been in anything like that before. So I specifically remember this one night I was hanging out with some friends, and I think this person literally just wanted the best for me, and so they told me this, and I think they didn't realize how much it would hurt hearing that, but they were like, listen, Luma, it's just simply not gonna work. Like, every long distance relationship I know ends up with the couple breaking up. It's not gonna work. Just know it and act on that sooner or later. I was so upset. I went home and cried. I texted my boyfriend and I was like, I just feel really like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And he's very reassuring. And I ended up obviously tackling those feelings and getting to this place now where I'm just like okay with it. And I deal with it so much better now. And yeah, now I'm happy to say that we're handling it really well. And that's why I'm making this video, because I want anybody else going through the same thing to know that you can make this work. We have a lot to unpack. Number one, is it worth it? See, this depends. It depends on your end goal. It also depends heavily on how often you'll be able to see the person. If you can't see the person at least every 6 months, that is going to be really difficult. Is it worth it? You have to ask yourself that question. If you've already been dating somebody for so long and then you have to go 6 months without seeing them for whatever reason, then that's a different story. But if you are getting yourself into a situation where you're about to enter this new relationship and you won't be able to see them, in my opinion, I don't think it's worth it. I know some people might hate to hear that, but it's just gonna be really, really difficult. You have to think to yourself, you know, you have to do your future self favors, because you are going to be putting yourself through so much emotionally being without this person for that long. Like, I admit even 3 months is difficult, even 4 weeks is difficult. So yeah, so that's number one. Can you see them, you know, every few months? And what is your end goal? Is one of you going to move to the other person's city? Do you have that in the cards, like possibly moving out together or even moving to a new city together or whatever it may be? Okay, camera's dying. I'm gonna quickly change the battery and I'll be back. That's number one. You wanna ask yourself, like, do you guys have an end goal? Have you talked about an end goal? Like, you don't even have to have it set in stone, but just like have an idea of like what might your end goal be. I don't want to sit here and sugarcoat it, okay? I'm going to keep it very real, cutthroat on this channel, because that's how my mom raised me. My mom is so cutthroat. She gives it to me straight. I'm going to give it to you straight. There are just a lot of things that you have to consider. In my opinion, it is more meaningful than an ordinary, mundane relationship. Like, I'm not saying all relationships are mundane, but so many people get into relationships for comfort. And if you think about it, if they were to be in the situation where they had to then go into, doing long distance for whatever reason, somebody had to move for a job or whatever, they would probably break up. But if you are in a long distance relationship and you go through that, the struggles of long distance, and you end up together and living in the same city, like, you can go through anything. You've literally spent weeks, months, so much time apart. It's so meaningful. Your relationship is unique and you know that you can go through anything. That's something really beautiful about long distance. I just feel like your trust is like next level. So yeah, I feel like when people tell me, I don't know how you do it, I don't know how you're in a long distance relationship, I just feel like that makes me feel in a weird way like empowered. I'm like, you know what? Him and I are so strong that we can do this, and everybody else is saying they can't do it, but we can do it. So here are some pros and cons. I'm just going to talk about different things you're going to go through being in a long distance relationship, and pros and cons, and we're just going to touch on everything. The fights are difficult and you are going to need to get very good at communication. I just started laughing because out of him and I am so bad at communicating sometimes. Like, I would just get angry and it's like, I don't want to talk to you. You can't do that when your partner is living in a different city. You're gonna need a lot of reassurance. There are gonna be those nights where you feel insecure, you feel bad, they're out and you don't know what they're doing, and it's like, text can be like misunderstood and it can get difficult. You have to get extremely good at communication. You know that saying, communication is key or whatever, like in relationships? That's in any normal relationship. You're in a long distance relationship. Your partner doesn't live in the same place as you. You don't know what they're doing. So that means you need to communicate extremely well, because when you guys are not in the best place, you can't just hug it out. You can't just go see them and hug it out. Maybe if you guys like this video, I'll do a video with my boyfriend where we actually sit together and talk about like different things. Like, you guys can ask us questions. If that's something that you might be interested in, let me know. But anyway, yeah, I definitely needed to get better at that, and I'm still learning, but I'm definitely the one that can be a little bit bad at communicating sometimes, and I have learned that just gets very messy. You guys end up like not talking for hours, and it's like you're both sitting by your phone just being like stubborn, confused, who's gonna text who first. That's just exhausting emotionally. Here's another con. The feeling of insecurity due to long distance relationships, and jealousy is a big problem here. It's inevitable. You will get lonely. You will feel jealous of the people that are around your partner. You will almost tell yourself like, there's so much out there around them. Why would they be loyal to me? You're just gonna drive yourself crazy, and it is inevitable. I'm convinced that everybody in a long distance relationship is gonna go through this. So even though I'm sitting here giving you advice, I've gone through it. I'm sure my partner has felt like that at certain points. It's just about reassuring them. Okay, you guys are both incredible people and you've got this amazing bond together, and it's like, it's all about the communicating, the reassuring. That is like the foundation for the relationship, is the communication. So it's inevitable. You will have doubts, you will feel down, you will feel bad, but it's about communicating really well and speaking that out to your partner, like letting them know how you feel. There's people around your partner that don't realize that you would do anything to be with them. And so like, you always feel jealous of those people, Another con is lack of physical intimacy. Obviously, this is harder depending on the distance, so like how often you see them. How do you deal with not, you can't be physically intimate with your partner? Obviously, I think about it and that's annoying, and it's like one of the downfalls of long distance, but you tend to like overdo it sometimes when you live in the same city as your partner, I think. So in a weird way, it's like, yes, you go all this time without being able to hug your partner and kiss them and be with them and stuff, but like when you do get to be with them physically and you do get all of that, it's like butterflies. You're literally like, this is so cringy of me to say, but like, it's like you're falling in love with them all over again every time you see them. Like, the honeymoon period doesn't go away. And I actually genuinely think out of all of our problems, that is the least of my concerns, is the lack of physical intimacy. I know some couples go months without seeing their partner, but I get to see him like once every month. But yeah, it's okay. It's definitely possible. You've got this. I just think you need to understand what you're putting your heart through before you commit to the person. So it's really important to watch videos like this. Like, it's good that you're sitting here watching this video because that's what your friends are for. You talk to them about it. Even if they've never been in a long distance relationship, have people that understand what you're going through, that can reassure you. That's what friends are for. That's what people like me are here for. I'm making this video to reassure you. And don't focus on how people say long distance relationships don't work, because if you feel in your heart that that person is worth it, then you are going to make this work. Being in a long distance relationship is actually easier said than done if you know in your heart that that person is worth it. Because if they're worth it, you won't second guess. It'll get easier, it'll get better, and you will find your independence while being able to be with them, but also work on yourself and all of that. It's amazing. I'm just gonna keep it real. Another con is the idea of possibly drifting apart. Life is unpredictable, and some long distance couples eventually do drift apart. It can be difficult to maintain a relationship across the miles when the responsibilities of every day get in the way, you know, work and friends and all of this stuff. If you've told your partner that, you know, you're gonna call him at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and then your friends invite you to this thing the same night, and you go to that, you know, things like that can get difficult. You really need to carve out the time, to call them, to speak to them, have your little routines, how you guys communicate and everything. That's how you're gonna make it work. That's how you're gonna avoid drifting apart from each other. Okay, so we've talked about some of the things that might be difficult. We're gonna talk about the pros. I want to make you feel reassured here. Here's pro number one. The honeymoon phase will literally feel like it's lasting forever. You know, a lot of couples that live in the same city, that feeling sort of goes away, but I feel like when you're doing long distance, that feeling lingers, that honeymoon feeling, because you really get to know them, you really think about them. They're on your mind 24/7. It's amazing to be able to determine that your relationship can go through anything, because shit happens, life happens, and you guys might have to go apart for a little bit and have some distance or whatever might happen. You know you can get through it if you've gone through long distance already. You might not even realize this, but a long distance relationship may be your only option to maintain a relationship. I know for me, because of my work, because of how much I'm doing, I literally do so much in one day. Managing the social media of a company, I have my own brand, I do YouTube and I do my Instagram, and I have my manager emailing me, and there's just so much going on, right? I feel like long distance gives you more flexibility to work on yourself, because you can often lose yourself in relationships. And you know how they say you kind of get a little bit chubby sometimes, you're going out to eat all the time, you stop seeing your friends as much. You don't do any of that in a long distance relationship, because you are literally working on yourself while being with this person. So I find it's amazing for me, and it's actually easier for me to maintain a relationship because I'm in that period of my life, and I feel like everybody should be thinking like this, where my career is so important, and I know that he feels the same, and we have obligations and we have things to do, and it's just the easiest way to maintain a relationship for us at the moment is by having that space, seeing each other, and then kind of having that space where we can do our own things. We know what we're doing. We text each other every day. I know his schedule. It's not like he's out doing things that I don't know about every single day. We talk all the time. I think we appreciate each other more because we're just not in each other's faces all the time. We can't really annoy each other. We see each other when we see each other, and then we go back to our everyday lives. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a huge piece of advice that I have to give anyone, in a long distance relationship. Those last few days, those last few hours, it's heavy, it's on your chest. It's oh my God, I'm not gonna see this person for a while. That sucks. For me, when we're together, I'm having the time of my life, and then it's always the day before I might cry in front of him and be I don't want to leave. I get really sad. He's a lot better at dealing with it than me, but I'm just gonna be honest, I get really, really sad. I get really down, and it just happens. It's inevitable. You're gonna feel it, It's the time is coming to an end, and you're gonna have to go back to the airport or whatever, and you're gonna have to leave them for a bit. It really, really sucks. I get so sad. I read something online when I was doing all my research on how to survive long distance, and it honestly changed my perspective. When you're with your partner, you want to do your best to make that last day count. That last day needs to count. So carve out the time to make sure that in those last few hours, you are spending it together. Every second of that day you are spending together, and it's a great day up until the airport, and you guys are just taking it all in. You need to force yourself to just have a good day. Do everything you can to make that last day perfect, because it means the most when you can do that. There is absolutely no point of being sad. It serves you nothing. For me personally, I can really spiral when I think too much about the doubts. When I think too much about doubts, when I think too much and fixate on how sad I am that he's not here, I just get really sad and I get really down, and it's what's the point? Why would you do that to yourself? I see so many TikToks of people crying and talking about, long distance is so hard. Yes, it's hard. I'm not dismissing that, but I'm saying, what are you going to do about it? That is not the mindset okay? So yes, I get sad sometimes. I'm gonna admit it, I get sad, but I never get so sad to the point where I feed those doubts and I feed those feelings of like, this can't work, I can't do this. Because I can do this. Because I have shit to do, okay? Life is difficult, but that's life. There are people going through worse out there. You have somebody that loves you, that literally lives miles away and loves you so much and will do anything for you. That is a beautiful thing. If you keep fixating on other people have it, but they have it closer to them, what does that serve you? Absolutely nothing. So you fixate on the fact that somebody loves you, and yes, they live far, but we have phones, we have FaceTime, you know, we're in a generation where it's like, you can text every day, we can have little movie dates through FaceTime. There are so many options. We're not in the 1920s, okay? So like, it's definitely possible. There's just things you obviously have to consider, like we've talked about, but it's definitely possible. When you've waited so long to see them, there's just like, something just hits different, you know? Sometimes him and I hang out and we get to the point where it's like, okay, we've spent 2 weeks together, we haven't really worked so much, because when you do see them, you kind of just want to spend every second of every day with them. So it's like, you kind of slack off on a few things, but that's okay. I'm not complaining. Like, I actually don't mind doing that because we don't get to see each other that much. But then you get that feeling of like, okay, I need to get back to my life and do things. And so it's like almost healthy to have that space from each other. But then those weeks or few days or hours leading up to when you're finally going to see them again, it's like you literally have butterflies. And that is something that not many couples get to feel, because they're just so used to seeing their partner and they tend to stop appreciating their partner. I appreciate my partner so much because my time with him is limited. And so when we do hang out, we never really fight. And if we do have like any type of issue, it doesn't last long. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about some times where we've been like, you know, maybe I've been like a bitch or I'm like angry about something, but it just doesn't last long because it's like our time is limited here, okay? We're not gonna sit around fighting. We got things to do. We got dates to go on. We have shit to do. I'm not gonna fight with you. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this video. I hope this video has given you more of an insight about how you're going to deal with a long distance relationship. Let me know what you're thinking and how you guys feel about being in a long distance relationship after watching this video. Lastly, I want to say something, and take this with a grain of salt. It's going to be hard to hear, so hear me out. Many long distance relationships will end sooner or later. Long distance relationships are a temporary solution only. I don't care if that's 2 months, 2 years, 5 years, it is a temporary solution. Even though my boyfriend and I are going strong and we're doing this, we have end goals and we don't plan to do this forever. And like, as I said, you have to see long distance as a temporary solution only. It doesn't need to be picture perfect. It doesn't need to be 100% clear, but you guys need to have an end goal. I believe, by the way, both people should sacrifice at some point. So like, I'm gonna move to the city that my boyfriend lives in because I really like that city and I actually need change, but like, we've talked about how he's gonna make a sacrifice in the future, and like, it's not just me moving my life for him, he will also probably do the same at some point. We will both be doing that. I think that both of you should make that sacrifice, because I think eventually you might resent your partner a little bit if you move and you've made all those changes and then they haven't done any of that. So you've gone through all of this for them, but they haven't, you know what I mean? So it's a lot to consider, but you both need to make sacrifices, and there needs to be that end goal. It needs to be discussed. So yeah, to end off on a positive note, I will say that there are too many people in this world for you to be limited to just meeting your soulmate in the same city as you. If you have found somebody that loves you so much, you feel like there's that potential for something amazing to blossom out of that, hold on to it because it is worth it. And I'm proof of that. I'm so happy, and like, this is the best I've ever felt in a relationship, and he doesn't even live here. It doesn't mean that you can't have an incredible and meaningful relationship if they don't live in the same city as you. You need to like work on it together and navigate it together, but it is definitely possible. It is, in my opinion, the most meaningful, beautiful, and difficult type of relationship that there is. And that's why I'm making this video, because it's definitely possible, and I just want people to know that out there. Let me know what you think about this video. Please give it a like. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers. I'm so excited. So yeah, I will see you guys in my next video, and I love you so much.